Welcome to Triad Startups Demo Day 2019, powered by New Ventures. My name is Bobby Davis. I am the founder of Foundry, a .NET bootcamp that teaches people how to code. We are here to cover a very exciting event as 50 of the greatest startups in North Carolina come together with investors to pitch their ideas and possibly get funded. I was talking to someone the other day about from another state, and they were asking me, is there any kind of tech startup? Or what is the tech startup scene in North Carolina? And why are you in North Carolina? And I mentioned to him that, we are the creators of Fortnite here. We also have a lot of very vibrant companies, meaning Lowe's Hardware, Analog Devices, Corvo. There's a lot of vibrant startup and technology companies inside of the Triad, Charlotte, and Raleigh. And it got me thinking more about this as software has truly become the economic mobilizer of our time, where you can work from anywhere you want, work on the companies that you want to work for, all because you know how to code. We're going to showcase 50 of the greatest startups we have right now in North Carolina. So let me assure you, down here in Winston-Salem, the beautiful downtown area, that the tech startup scene is very vibrant, alive, and well. So we're going to talk to the entrepreneurs, and you'll get an inside track of how these people have built their companies and how they're pushing them out into the marketplace. We'll also get to meet with venture capitalists, and you'll get the inside baseball look into how do they rate these companies? How do they judge them? How do they determine what's investable or not? And as well as all of the speakers, and they'll give us some aspirational notes. If you're out there thinking, maybe I should start my next idea, or maybe I should learn how to code because I would like to see this done. These people will motivate you, inspire you, and kind of get you motivated and get your juices flowing. So welcome to Triad Startup Demo Day 2019. Hey, so welcome back to Demo Day 2019 here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We're at the Biotech place, and I'm here with Christy Brown from Loeb.atl. They are sort of like a venture capital, but not really. So tell me exactly what your spin is on this and getting startups in the industry.
Yeah, so Loeb.atl was actually an expansion out of our home base in New York. We expanded into the Atlanta marketplace about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Our focus is providing funding for seed to series is our sweet spot. So growth stage companies that are maybe taking their next step out of their MVP, or they're fully in market and looking for an investor that understands and partners with them. We actually have built what we call a studio collective.
Okay. And
we insulate companies that we invest in inside our Atlanta office and provide all of the shared services to support, scale, and grow them for their long-term success.
Okay, that's very interesting because that is different than what a VC does. So typically a VC will write you a check.
Yep.
And then everything's on you at that point. You
Correct.
got to figure out things like, especially guys that we talk to that are coders, they're more focused on I'm going to build my app's going to change the world, but they don't know how to send out the bill so they can get paid. So they need, or they didn't know how to make a contract and they kind of lose the company over those kind of back office things. Talk more about how does that work for these people that get in there?
Yeah, that's a great question because we are very founder focused, and we're kind of, even though we are venture capital, we are not venture capitalist. We operate a little more traditionally like a family fund.
Right. Okay.
We have private money, so we're not in a rush to deploy capital, so that's the first thing.
Right.
Secondly, we're very deliberate about our investments. So those folks, guys and girls that are in the back room coding and wanting to build their first company, we really would be focused on that because we're founder focused.
Right.
However, I would also go back to know your strengths.
Yeah.
So if you're a coder in a back room wanting to grow a company, you likely need someone to help you grow the company, be that another COO, CEO to help you do that. Not every coder is going to be able to change the world with their code, right?
Exactly.
I've been there.
Right. So I've started several companies on myself.
Yeah.
What for you when you're out here now as an investor? I know that you were an entrepreneur yourself as well. When you're interviewing prospective people, what's the thing that they should take advice from you? In other words, I know that you meet people and they just kill their deal because they did something. What should they be mostly concerned about when they get an audience with you?
Yeah, that's again another great question because I've been on both sides of the table. I've killed my own deals and I've killed deals in front of me. In my own experience as a founder and having exited my own companies, I would kill the deal by not really knowing my market.
Okay.
Market is extremely important, and knowing the value of what you have built, and so on and so on.
Right.
Not being eager to raise money just because it's the popular thing to do, but rather taking a step back and really understanding, hey, I've got a profitable company, do I really need to go there? So that's the founder hat I would put on.
Yeah.
On the opposing side, as an investor, I probably meet with 10 or so companies a week that pitch.
Right.
They have every opportunity to be successful or use me for advice, right? And my team, because it's certainly not me making all the decisions. I have really instrumental analysts who are way smarter.
Right.
That sit at the table, and those founders that aren't focused on their marketplace, don't understand their customer acquisition, be that the financial aspect of it or how they get it,
right.
or how they're going to make money in the roadmap 3 to 5 years from now is really a deal killer for us.
Right.
And trying to help them and give them advice that isn't received for the next investor is very disheartening, because at the end of the day, we really want to keep that founder focus and continue to shake hands and help them go to the next level, right? So that's kind of the deal killer for me.
Yeah, so when I talk to people, we talk to a lot of people that come to our school.
Yeah.
A lot of them are coming to learn how to code, but they're also bringing in an idea. And so while they're with us, I pitch them, there's 3 phases to your game. I want to see if you want to talk about this a little bit. The first one is what you said, MVP, or your minimal viable product. I always counsel them first, like, get to there as quick as you can. If you stay in development for like 20 years, I mean, you're never going to get to market.
Yeah.
So you have to make concessions somewhere so I can just start showing it to somebody. Do you see people like waiting too long in that development cycle, or?
Yeah, I see corporations do that.
Right. Yeah.
Startups are very eager,
Right.
but you also can't be a feature freak, right? You hear that term a lot.
Right.
Don't get bogged down in how many features you can go to market with. You've got to really expose, especially in the MVP, what the market is going to have an appetite for.
Right.
So feature freak happens in big old corporations that can't move fast enough to change their product.
Right.
In a startup, we have to be agile enough to be able to identify the top 3 or 5 things that get us to market, that make us grow revenue, and then you start identifying, kind of features later on.
Or your pivot, or whatever.
You pivot,
Yeah.
or you pivot, and that happens. That's a natural occurrence, and
Right.
people are scared to use that word, but pivot happens.
Right.
I feel like we need a bumper sticker that says "pivot happens."
Right.
It definitely is kind of on the front end of that.
And that's why I talk to people all the time. It's like, if you get your MVP out there, and then you show it to 100 people.
Yeah.
Guess what? Those 100 people may give you a fantastic idea that you never thought of. That could take your company to the next level. And you're like, well, I thought I was going to do this, but wow, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think I can roll that into my MVP. So what do you think
Yeah.
about that? Or showing it to people early on, and how fast do you want them to show their idea?
Yeah, so I'm all about the lean startup program. But that being said, about a year ago, I kind of did a reverse. And I got really ingrained in something I called the mom test.
Right.
And there's a book actually called The Mom Test that I would recommend any developer or future founder read.
Right.
What I have found and what this methodology is if you can't explain this to your mother in sensible, understandable ways that they're going to use your product,
Right.
they're not going to use your product, and
Right.
they're not going to take it to market. So not only, kind of having that combination of lean startup with, being able to pivot and identify what features are really important, user experience is massive.
Right.
And, we can throw a big app out there and say, this is going to change the world, but here's the only 3 things it does today. And that can create market adoption. But until you test that market, that product market fit,
You don't
who
know.
knows?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah. So the second thing that I told
So I
them,
tested on my mom. That's,
yeah, exactly.
That's the story.
I think that's funny because I would have to really, for my mom, I'd have to really kind of really bring it down to earth so she can understand, even what Coder Foundry does. So what is coding? So like you would ask me that,
Yeah, and the other thing is, look, if we're developing an app that we think is going to change the world, then it better change all the world.
Right, exactly.
All aspects, meaning your mom and my mom probably need to understand how to use that.
Right.
And if you can't test and learn from that generation, this generation, and all of us, then it's not going to change the world. It's going to change just a small speed.
Yeah, your audience.
Spike.
It's just going to change your audience's world.
Yes.
You want to change the whole world.
And as an investor, I want to see big life-changing things, because that's how you 10 or 20x the value of your investment.
All right, so I think the other really tough question that startup people get, especially ones like our audience, they're very kind of technical focused. They're inside the technology and they want to talk to you in buzzwords or whatever, but then you ask them like, so let's talk about customer acquisition, like, and they don't really know like how to go to market. Like, so what's an advice for someone that's not traditionally a salesperson, but like, he's got to have a plan or she's got to have a plan. Somehow, how do you get people to buy your thing?
Yeah, that's tough because I also think you have to know your strength.
Right.
Oftentimes we see founding teams, 1 or 2, 3 people. They've got a CEO, CFO, CTO.
Right.
None of them have any sales background, and it's hard for them. It's very challenging. And so they're just trying to get enough seed capital so they can go hire the right talent, right? They know that's not their strength. But you have to have someone that can talk the talk and convey the message, and it's very uncomfortable for a lot of them. It's not uncomfortable for you and I, but I also am not comfortable coding on a keyboard 9 hours a day.
Exactly.
So, understanding your strength and really kind of pushing that to help convey your message, it's really clarity to an investor. It's tell me what it is, how does this do it, and how am I going to make money?
Exactly.
How are we going to all make money doing it? Not that, total capitalism, we do mission-based as well, but the point is we got to understand it.
Well, even the right cost needs money. I mean, money makes everything work. And I think sometimes in today's society we look at it as a bad word, like I'm in this to make money. But like, in other words, you have to do that. So even if you're changing the world or feeding hungry kids, if you can't pay the people to do that, your mission doesn't get accepted. So you have to make money somehow. So how do you focus in on branding? Do you worry if the founder can brand the company? And we know that branding and marketing is different than sales. Like, how do you look at those kind of things? Do you say, can this person brand this thing? Or because brand is kind of like the thing that attracts people to your product or service. Yeah,
look, I'm lucky at Loeb because we're a branding machine. Our DNA is marketing, branding, media. So I don't worry about that because I know any company that we look to invest in, we've got a machine to put around it and insulate the entrepreneur and the founding teams with the ability to scale and grow. We have a branding division that solely focuses on branding and communications. We have marketing and digital assets that help them kind of do what they need to do. We really want to take the monkey off the back of all the founding teams so that we can just scale and grow their business. So branding doesn't scare me, but your question really is around how to get branding and how do they convey that, and that's a challenge because look, you start with one company name and change it to another, and that happens. I've done it, and I've just told people this is the new name. Welcome aboard. But it has to have a meaningful connection with whoever you're selling to or whoever's using your solution or product.
Well, the thing that I'm really interested in now that I've heard you talk a little bit is like, why do you think more VCs don't operate this way? Because like, it seems to me that the reason you do this is because you want to put capital to work, but you'd also like to see your capital actually succeed. And so instead of trying to say, let's invest in 100 companies, I hope 2 make it, you're trying to say, okay, we can make the home runs more frequent by giving the things, the reason people fail is because of all these other kind of side things.
Yeah, again, I feel like I'm in a kind of a gifted world. Michael Loeb built, several really amazing companies, and he said, let's flip the funnel on this VC thing. We love VCs, we co-invest with them. But they like to co-invest with us because of the shared services model. And we do flip the funnel. So instead of, kind of an 8 to 10 failure rate, we see more of a 92% success rate in our investments. And it's because of this insulation of being able to help them, and as an entrepreneur, sitting on the floor at night doing all your invoices is not the best use case of your time.
Not always,
and especially if it's not your skill set, then you got to go, kind of audit the books, and that's not your skill set either.
Do taxes.
Yes, do taxes, and you just want to find the resources that can help you. But you got to get the money to do it. So we do flip the funnel, and we we invest a little bit differently, but it also allows us to be deliberate and intentional about the companies that we invest with, because
Right.
it is a marriage and it is a partnership.
Right.
And we want to be at their table as an advisor, and we want them at our table as well as part of the family. And so it's very important that kind of communication, exchange, and relationship is developed when we're analyzing the investment.
Okay. So one last question, I'll let you get out of here. If there's a startup person listening right now, what's the best way to get on one of your 10-day? You said you did 10 a week. How do they get in one of those to get the hour with Christy Brown? So I can
the hour of power.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
We actually have a very easy communication stream. So we have a application they can go to at loeb.nyc/Atlanta.
Okay.
loeb.nyc/Atlanta. It's pretty simple, and it's 10 questions. You can upload your pitch deck, and we literally look at these every Monday as a team.
Wow.
We go through, give feedback, set up video pitches, and kind of go through the process. So that's the easiest way.
Okay.
It is very much. It's very important to us that the experience is a great one. So we always go through and have communication back to all the companies.
Okay. What I would encourage the group out here, if you're listening to this, is if they can get on your thing, I would believe that is the best use of capital that you can get because of all these shared services. They may have to relocate to Atlanta, but hey, Atlanta's not a bad place to live. It's pretty cool.
It's a great place to live.
It's a hot city.
Yeah,
So
I'm there. It's amazing.
Exactly. So anyway, Christy, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you
so
coming
much.
in. And that was Christy Brown with Loeb.atl. We'll be right back with Venture Day 2019.
The success stories from the Coder Foundry just keep rolling in, and you can add your name to the growing list. The Coder Foundry is a company, a school that teaches you how to code, how to make apps, how to be a software designer and developer in only 12 weeks. And you don't need any experience, and you don't need a college degree. Right now, during their Launchpad program, you don't even need tuition. You go in for 12 weeks. Intense training on how to be a coder, how to do the software, all of those things. And if you don't get a job at a designated salary on the other side of those 12 weeks, you pay no tuition at all. Nothing up front and no tuition ever in this Launchpad program, which is filling up fast and starts next month. Making those dreams come true for over 5 years now. CoderFoundry.com. Go there today and find out if it's right for you.
Hi, I'm here with Janet McKay Smith. She's the CEO of Gifted, and as it was explained to me, this is like the red box for gift cards. So Janet, hey, thank you for coming to Coder Foundry and
Thanks
talking
for
about
having me.
I want to ask you a question. So tell me what Gifted is. What is it?
Gifted is a mobile app and kiosk system that allows you to design and print personalized gift cards on demand to your favorite local spot.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So tell me a little bit about how did you come up with this idea, and what's the genesis for this?
Well, I was actually out shopping for gift cards, and I was bummed out because when I went to CVS to buy the gift card, they didn't have the values or the places that I wanted to buy gift cards to. And so I ended up buying a generic gift card. But when I walked out, I saw a red box, and I was thinking, well, why don't we have red boxes for gift cards where you can buy any gift card to any local place and any value that you need?
So you want to walk to a kiosk and just print a gift card for the thing that you want, and not necessarily the options that are inside the store or whatever.
Exactly. We want to offer more options. We're not necessarily going after national brands right now. We want to be hyper-localized. There's a big movement behind the shop local. So we want to offer that in our kiosk, and then we also want to offer personalized experiences to trampoline parks or baseball games or whatever it is.
Okay, so it sounds like you want to be hyper local, and you want to have this running inside the Triad, inside of Winston-Salem right now.
Right. Well, we plan to start in Winston with 10 kiosks, and then next year we'll grow to 25 kiosks across the Triad, and then eventually we'll be in North Carolina's major cities with 100 kiosks.
Okay. So tell me why, if I owned a local restaurant, why would I want to sign up with Gifted? Why would I want to do that?
Right. Well, we take a small cut of the load value, but you get the remaining balance up front in sales, and you're also getting broader distribution past your storefront where you just can keep your gift cards within your racks we're offering you other places to sell your gift cards, and you can extend your advertising reach.
Right, and that makes sense because I would imagine if I'm running like the NASCAR museum down here in downtown Winston, it's really hard for me to get my gift card like in Lowe's or CVS or something like that, some kind of broad national chain.
And that's exactly the kind of places we're planning to put our kiosk, or in grocery stores and drugstores and gas stations even.
Right. Okay, so it gives them an outlet that they couldn't get to by themselves necessarily, unless you're like this big, broad national brand.
And it levels the playing field with national brands.
Okay. So. Now, what do you think about people wanting to shop local? Do you think that's another motivation behind this as well?
It's a huge movement right now. We have, coming up in November, we have Small Business Week, where there's a whole campaign behind shopping local, and we're also seeing the experience side where people want to, a lot of millennials, they don't want more things, they want experiences where they can go out with their friends and share a great meal or watch a movie or anything like that.
Okay, I agree with that, yeah. So, and I'm like that too. I like to eat local. I mean, I'm definitely a restaurant foodie type person. And so sometimes, as you can talk to my producer Kevin here, I'll go eat somewhere and then I'll text him and say, man, you got to try this place. What would be even better if I could just go to the Red Box or something like that and buy him a gift card and say, hey man, try this, dinner's on me, go try this out with your wife. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yes, and we're also wanting to look at bundling, so you can do a dinner and a movie package or something like that. So that's further down on our roadmap, but that's something we want to offer.
Okay, so let's talk to the investors that are kind of watching this. So like, what stage are you in the business?
We're in the early developmental stage. We're trying to work with a software developer right now to get it up and going, but we've already talked to a kiosk manufacturer and we've signed 20 letters of intent from local businesses.
Okay, so you would say your product development is what? How would you classify that?
We're looking for app developers and software developers. It'll overlay with the kiosk manufacturer software, but we're just getting started. We've done a couple of demos with Adobe XD, but we're in the middle of it right now.
Okay, cool, awesome. So for the Coder people that are watching this, if they're out there writing apps or they're writing iOS or Android applications, you would probably like to talk to them to see if they could help you.
I would love that. We really need some help with this. I have an extensive background in e-commerce marketing, but I'm not a coder naturally. I know a little bit about it, so if there's anybody out there that can help us, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, cool. All right. So investors, as you're on the floor here, a lot of investors here today, so I'm sure you're hoping to raise some money and get some funding. I think the number one question that investors would want to know is like, how do you plan to make money? Kind of what is your business model? What's your plan?
Right, so the average gift card is about $50, and we're taking a 15% cut from that, and then we get a small upcharge from the customization fee. With that, we're paying the kiosk place hosting our kiosk monthly rent, and we're sharing 5% revenue with them. The remaining balance goes back to that local business, and they're getting the broader distribution and the extended advertising reach.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's the thing that that interests me is that if you run in a local brewery or a local restaurant, that they would say, you know, I want my card in front of Lowe's, and I want it in Lowe's Hardware, I want it in front of a really high traffic area, so I can just find my great food or my great experience or great thing, whatever I have. Right,
and that's where we're trying to put our kiosks. We want to put them in high foot traffic areas that have medium to high income earners.
Okay, great. All right, so where do you think, or you classify yourself as an early stage company, or how do you classify yourself?
We're early stage. We actually just formed last November, so we're in the very beginning of it, but we've participated in several accelerators and we're moving right along.
All right, great. So my final question, and I wanted you to give some hope for people out there. A lot of people that are watching this are they're probably software developers, or they may have an idea.
Right.
What can you say of an entrepreneur that's saying like, should I really try to start this, or how scary is it, or how difficult do you think it was?
It's a bit intimidating, but I think you need to find a good support system. In Winston, we have a great entrepreneurial ecosystem. I actually started this idea in college, and my professor encouraged me to go to Venture Cafe and Flywheel to kind of pitch my idea and get a feel of how it, if people think it's actually a good idea. And since I've done that, the support has just been overwhelming. Everybody's been there to help, lend a helping hand and jump in last minute when I need stuff, and give me connections to their other people. It's a very supportive system.
All right, well, great.
Throughout the city.
Well, Janet McKay-Smith, thank you for coming in, and I really wish you well there. I hope you get chose for that lightning round. I know you're kind of worried about that, so like, I'll let you get back to the floor and pitch your stuff.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, bye. And we'll be right back with CF Live here, and just stay tuned. Thank you. Hey, and we're back here with Demo Day 2019, sponsored by New Ventures. I'm Bobby Davis with Coder Foundry, and I'm sitting here with Tim McLaughlin. He is he's with Co-Founders Capital. What do you do at Co-Founders Capital? And tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So we're a $31 million, this is our second fund, venture capital fund, investing in B2B software companies, primarily in North Carolina. So we have some investments outside of the state, but we really like to invest in North Carolina. And typically we're first institutional money into deals. So your early stage, we often say nothing's too early for us to start talking to.
Right.
So you developers or you founders with an idea, come talk to us. We'll start the conversation going, and often we're first time we'll write pre-revenue checks into deals.
Okay.
So companies don't have to be too far along for us to start getting involved with them and start investing.
Okay, that's exciting. I think that's exciting news. There's a lot of people that are watching this that probably do have a software idea that they would like to pitch. I was talking to a guy on the phone the other day, and he was trying to sell me something, and he was from another state.
Sure.
I won't say that it was in California, but it was. And he asked me a really weird question. He said, do you guys have technology jobs in North Carolina? And I'm like, yeah, we made Fortnite here, you know? I mean, so like, tell me about the state of like North Carolina. If you're investing in North Carolina, you must obviously think there's money to be made here.
Yeah, sure. And I think that there was this other big acquisition recently called Red Hat and
yeah,
IBM,
exactly.
where a lot of people made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, one of the knocks on North Carolina has been there haven't been these huge exits, right?
Right, yeah.
That you know, that there have been in Silicon Valley or in Boston.
Right.
And so I think when people look at those huge exits, they're looking at where can they make these home run unicorn type returns. Well, North Carolina is starting to get those, which I think is great. But what we really need is we need to seed more early stage deals in the area so that we have some of those bigger exits. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do at Co-Founders is seed more of these early deals so in the next few years we can have these larger exits. But at the same time, you look at all the local universities, you look at people leaving some of the larger corporations in the area. You know, entrepreneurship is one of the fastest growing degrees at NC State, University of North Carolina, and Duke, right? So you have a lot of entrepreneurs coming up, and then computer science is also on the radar with all these schools too.
Sure. Yeah.
So if we can start putting together some of these entrepreneurs and some of these technologists, I think we're in a great market right now to have some really big wins in the area for investors and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, because I've made my hay here. I've started several companies, most recently Coder Foundry, and we teach people to code and then we get them jobs, because what I see is 1,700 to 4,000 openings every single day in North Carolina for just software development. And so since you're in B2B software, talk to me, how do you evaluate a software company? How do you do that? Because all these people are gravitating to these companies.
Yeah,
How do you do it?
Sure. Well, I would say that the actual technology piece and going through the actual tech stack or whatever it is probably the last step on our diligence. We don't get into that. We make sure we start with the people, that are running the company. What's their background? Are they coachable? Can we work with the people? From there, we move into the value props. What problem is this trying to solve, and what's the solution? How valuable is that solution? So if someone can come into me and pitch who they're selling to and what the value is that their software is creating in the first couple minutes, that's really, really good. After that, we start looking at the market. Is this a growing market? Is there an opportunity for a large exit here where we can actually get the kind of returns we want? So it's people first, you look at the value props, you look at the market, and then we look at the technology, right? Is there some barrier to entry here? Is this something that not every developer can just go and create and try to build a business around? What's the barrier there?
Yeah, so you're looking at like, how do you protect the business? Are you looking for like recurring revenue streams primarily, subscription, software as a service? Is that what you're looking at?
Primarily. I mean, primarily that's what we're looking at. And it can be a monthly recurring revenue stream. It could be an annual license that these companies are signing. But what you really find with these businesses where you get the huge multiples is multiples on top line revenue is what does the customer retention look like, right? So if it's a one-off services, it's going to be harder to have that recurring revenue stream than if you're month to month or year to year and providing real value. So
I counsel a lot of people coming in, and I explain to them like this: if you work all year to sell 100 customers, when after Christmas and December 31st is New Year's Day, you still have 100 customers, or you have to start over and find 100 new ones to make business. And that's really what software as a service or like recurring revenue models do.
Yeah, it's all about how much does it cost you to acquire those customers, and then what's the customer lifetime value. And there's certain ratios that you look for in that business. The longer you keep those customers paying, the higher the customer lifetime value, the better investment, better return you're going to get. And the only other thing I'll add is if you can upsell within those accounts. So if I can sign 100 customers and then I can upsell 50 of those customers, that's a lot easier than acquiring a new customer to generate more revenue.
Yeah. Now, I heard you mention the word coachable.
Yeah.
And so like when I work with a lot of software developers, and I'm one too, we do sometimes act like divas and we're not really coachable because sometimes we think we know everything. Describe that guy he's running a software company, he's probably technical. What do you mean by coachable? What does he have to be willing to do to be successful with you?
Yeah, sure. I think what we found is understanding where your strengths are and being able to take input from other people that have different strengths than you. So whether that is bringing on a co-founder on your team that has more of the business side of the experience or biz dev or sales and marketing or whatever it is. Just knowing where your strengths are and being able to bring in that additional help. And that goes for investors too. Investors don't know. I can't sit there and develop I can't write code. That's not my area of expertise. But I have invested in 22 B2B software companies and I see where they fail or where they succeed. And I kind of got some knowledge there that I can help maybe a developer out with, hey, here's some problems you might run into. And I just want to see how they react to that.
Okay.
Whether they're actually taking that insight.
Are they willing to let it go, or are they control freaks? So like a lot of times when you're running a company, you can be a control freak to a certain degree, but eventually you have to bring other people in and empower them and trust them to do something for you,
And that's one thing I see with some, on the technical founder side, they're very reluctant to share what they've done, how they've done it, which can lead to either not getting an investment, because eventually an investor's got to look behind the curtain and see what's there. Or it really limits your business development opportunities or your acquisition opportunities. So sometimes I understand why you want to protect it a little bit, but there's always that time where you need to start sharing some more information if anything's ever going to really happen.
So, how does someone get a meeting with Tim McLaughlin? If they want the hour of power with you, like what would make you want to say, okay, I want to hear what you have to say?
So the first is a warm introduction from either anyone that we have a professional relationship with. So we have over 150 investors between our two funds. So if one of them is making an introduction to us, I'm going to take that meeting. Our attorneys, CPAs, all those folks that know us, if they're making an introduction, understand our business model, other co-investors. So there's a lot of people in our network that would, if they made a recommendation, it would make me want to take that meeting. The second piece to that is an entrepreneur that's done their research. So if they're reaching out to me with a specific ask because it's something I can actually help with, then I'm more inclined to take that meeting rather than just a kind of a shotgun approach to a cold email that has no direct ask out of me, So, if I can help, I typically will, even if it's not going to be a company we can invest in directly.
So what I'm telling them is make sure you send that email right. So like, you're going to make sure that like it's to the point, direct, know exactly what you want to achieve, so that you can envision to see if this is right for me or not.
I get 5 to 10 emails a day that are just, they had a database of investors, shot it out to all of them. I don't even, after the first line, if I know it's an email like that, I just delete it right away.
Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the pitching of this. So what have you seen that like founders do that kills their deals, and what make it work for them?
Sure, especially so. The number one thing I've seen for successful founders is the ability to articulate their value props to their customers. So if somebody can come in and in the first slide or two of a deck, in the first 2 minutes of a meeting, tell me what they do, who they're selling to, and what the value props are to that customer, I'm very intrigued on what they're doing, if they can provide real value. If I'm 5-10 minutes into a pitch and I have no idea what the product or what the offering or what the value is this company's creating, I'm most likely not going to invest.
You're done at that point.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, and my partner and I will sit across and look at each other, and we give each other the look, which is, do you have any idea what they're doing? Because I don't.
I know,
And where especially technical founders get really hung up is they start talking about the development and what's behind the scenes,
the stack,
right? How they do it, right? I don't really care how you do it. We often say that if you could sell a blue pill and the blue pill solved all the value props that you claim they did,
Right.
people would just buy your blue pill.
Right, exactly. And
So-
people are buying blue pills.
Yeah, people are buying blue pills, that's true. But it's more about articulating the value that you have to your customers,
Right.
I think is more key to me. So.
Yeah. Okay. So like, be clear on like value prop, because I do see that a lot. A lot of times they'll come to me and they're first telling me, oh, this is written in C#, and we've got this multi-thread thing going on, and I'm like, hold on a second, what does it do?
Yeah.
I mean, so like if you have to like quiz them on that, they need
Yeah.
to understand like the business part of it comes before the technology.
That's right. Don't create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Right,
What's
exactly.
the problem? How you're solving it? What's the value creation?
Yeah. Okay.
And quantify it if you can.
Right.
So.
And so this comes down to having a pitch deck. Are you still like looking at pitch decks and things like that, or?
I like looking at pitch decks.
Right.
There are certain check boxes that I'd like to see in a pitch deck, like what's the market size, what's the
Right.
opportunity, what's the pricing model, all that stuff. What's the team look like? All that stuff's important, but really the founder's ability to articulate is more important to me. So if somebody
Yeah.
just sent me an email that said, hey, I have a software company, here's what it is, here's who we sell to, here's the kind of money we think we can make, I don't need a deck to set up a meeting with that person, just
No.
have a conversation.
Right.
I'd say only about 20 or 30% of our initial meetings actually have a deck. The rest of them
Right.
are just, hey, just tell me about what you're doing. Let me
Right.
see if it makes sense.
Yeah, my first company I founded didn't have a deck at all.
Yeah.
You
That's,
know,
well,
like we just talked about the software and
good for you. You didn't
and
have
then-
to waste your time
and
doing
the value
that.
prop, and we were off and running. So like I think that a lot of people spend a lot of time on the deck, but then they miss it in the first 3 slides.
Or the other mistake some folks make is they go in, they get there and they start pulling out their phone or pulling out their computer and want to do a demo right away. I
okay.
do not want to see a demo until I understand what the problem is
Right.
and what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right? If I ask for a demo, that's probably the time to pull that out.
Yeah.
We just assume the technology works.
That's a great quote, because like I've said that a lot to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they don't believe me when I say that.
Yeah.
But like when you've seen something for the first time, you know, you don't really, when you're buying a car, you don't ask, is this thing drivable? You know,
Right.
you're like, you just assume you can drive it. You're judging it based on other factors. I like the way it looks, or what the feature is. What will it, is it red? I mean, those kind of things.
And the technology is normally just a function of time and money.
Right, exactly.
And we're going to figure out how much time it's going to take, but how much time it's going to take is probably a function of money.
Right.
And if you're talking to somebody that has the money, then talk about the vision, right?
Right. Okay.
What it can do.
Well, that's cool. So if you get a meeting and you take a meeting and they're taking our advice and you reach someone, what can they expect of it? What should they be looking for, like far as like ownership, possession, stake? How much control they're going to have to give up, or
Sure.
how do you work those numbers out with the co-founder?
Sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that VCs or other investors are going to want to take as much of the company as they can.
Right.
And it's just simply not the case. We want to make sure that if a founder wanted to walk away, it'd be pretty painful for them to walk away.
Right.
We want them to have significant ownership in the company.
Right.
And the more ownership they have in the company, the easier it is to negotiate a potential exit, because hey, they're going to make money, we're going to make money, and everybody's happy.
Right.
So if you have a founder that doesn't own enough of their company, it can be tough. So how much ownership? It all depends on
Right.
how much of your company you need at the end of the day to walk away, right?
Right.
If you think that it's a company that might exit for $40 million, well then only owning 1% of that company at the end of the day is going to be pretty tough. It's probably not going to be worth the time you put in.
Right.
But if it's a $1 billion opportunity, you're going to be more comfortable taking more money to get to that point to suffer more dilution.
Right.
So we often say it's all about how much money do you put in your pocket at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. Now typically, if you want to talk about actual deal terms, in your series seed and then subsequent rounds, you're probably going to be looking to take about 20% dilution, 15 to 25% dilution on each round, depending on how you're doing.
Right.
Now the big variable in that is how much money do you get for that dilution?
Right, yeah.
So are you getting, are you raising $1 million for that 15, 20%?
Right.
Or are you raising $5 million for that 15,
Right.
20%?
So if you meet an investor, and let's say that you have, hypothetically, they've got
Yeah.
customer growth, they've got things going on, and they're looking to take capital in, does that capital normally stay wholly in the company, or does the investor take some off the table? How does that work? When the guy says, I'd like to take some money home, but you want to grow the company, you have different goals. Like how do you negotiate those things out?
So in the seed stage, seed 2, Series A, you're almost never going to find any capital coming into a company to buy out any earlier investors.
Right, yeah.
Almost never. Now we have done that in the past,
Right.
but it's very rare. There's
Right.
got to be a very specific situation where we would do that. typically it's all money that's going to grow that you want for growth capital, right? To fuel growth. Now, once you're raising those late Series A, Series B, Series C, and investors want to come in and write a bigger check and take more ownership, they're more willing to buy out some of those seed investors.
Or buy some of your stock.
Or buy some of the founder shares. But typically they're doing that to get to a certain position in the company where they have more power,
power.
You know, maybe they want majority, maybe they want, they need a minimum of 40%, something like that. And that's probably why they're making that offer.
So I'm going to ask a really in the weeds question.
Sure.
So like, how are these companies structured typically if you're going to an investment? Are they going to stay as an LLC, or do you guys go to C Corps? And how do you handle pass-throughs and things like that?
So we can only invest in C Corps.
That's what I figured.
So we're only investing in C Corps where you can set up stock option pools, and there's all the things that come along with that. So simply as part of the closing it doesn't matter to us if it's an LLC when it comes in. We'll convert it in our investment into a C Corp as part of that process.
And that's so you don't have pass-through income.
You don't have to worry about pass-throughs.
You don't have to fight over that, right?
Being in the weeds, I mean, technically a company, we could be paying taxes on something we never see any profit from. And then that can go back to our shareholders, which could be a problem.
So okay, well that's cool. Anything else that you could offer advice to an investor or a kind of future founder here?
A future founder here?
Yeah,
make sure that you're building out teams with diverse skill sets. So if you're looking for a co-founder in a company, don't have it be your buddy that has all the same interests as you, that you went to school with, and you have all the same skill sets, right? Maybe if you're a technical founder, maybe pair up with some, a business person, someone with sales and marketing expertise, someone that can articulate that, and vice versa, right? I think those kind of teams that come in to pitch have a much better chance of getting funded.
All right. Well, Tim, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah, it's great.
Good luck with the show. I hope you find that next diamond here this week.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back with Demo Day 2019. Hi, welcome back to Triad Demo Day 2019. I am here with Elizabeth Escobar, and I'm going to try to get this right. I Thrive by Ho is a job platform connecting businesses to Hispanic labor. I hope I said that right. Did I say it right? Did I do okay?
Yeah, that was good. So, I trabajo, it means there's work in Spanish.
Oh, great.
That's the connection. Yes.
So tell all our viewers, like, what does it do and how does it work?
Yes, sure. So I Trabajo is a job platform that connects businesses with Hispanic labor. I was an immigrant. I moved from Colombia, and I struggled to find a job. At that time, I didn't speak English. Then many Hispanics are still experiencing that problem today. When I started thinking about, what can I do to make this better, to solve this problem? I'm an engineer, so I'm always thinking, how can I solve this problem? So I started learning that a lot of people would ask me, hey, did you know of a job? I just moved from Venezuela, I just moved from Colombia, I really can work on anything, I have my paperwork, but do you know any job? And I would say, well, no. And then probably a few days later, I would meet a friend and say, hey, we're hiding. I'm looking for someone who wants to work in cleaning. Do you know anybody? And then I realized, no, it can't be possible that there's not a single platform out there automating this process, solving this pain point. So I did some research, and really there was nothing out there. So I started working in I Trabajo, and I interviewed a couple of employers. One of them was Novan Health, and what I learned is that they have a blue-collar labor shortage, and they've been trying to hire more Hispanics, but they don't have HR personnel that speak Spanish, and they don't have an easy way to reach to the Hispanic labor market. So they basically didn't know what to do. So I said, okay, let me solve this problem. I'll create a job platform in English and Spanish so the user can select the language of preference. I will provide translation services so I can have employers advertise their job in Spanish. And then I create an application process where they can see in real time people that applies, information about the Hispanic applicants such as work experience, their English level, word references, to really help them make the best hiring decision.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you a question. So I know that you're also a coder too as well, right? So we're at Coder Foundry, so you write software, but this thing has a blockchain component to it. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how's blockchain being used in this solution?
Yes, I love that question. So what I see that blockchain brings to the table is a layer of security, right? You have information that is distributed across several nodes. So, as an example for Bitcoin, even though I don't plan to use the Bitcoin network, but in Bitcoin, for example, every transaction is verified within a 10-minute window, right? And over 50% of the nodes have to agree on what is on that transaction to reach consensus. So in order to hack the Bitcoin blockchain network, it's pretty difficult and also very expensive, right? So that adds a layer of security that currently the internet is lacking of. What I plan to store there is that iTrabajo is not just this job platform where any person can post a job. So an employer that maybe wants to hire people and don't pay them, they cannot be on my platform. I screen every employer to make sure that doesn't happen. So that verification process, when iTrabajo screens an employer, that will be stored as metadata on the blockchain network. So it can be tamper-proof. So that is the future.
All right, so now we have a lot of like what I would call coders that are watching our show here, and they're probably thinking right now, I'm just going to ask it, what blockchain platform are you using to build it?
Yes, so right now it's under development because I want iTrabajo to be used worldwide, right? It's not just for the US. Right now we're starting here, but it can expand. I wanted to use a scalable technology that somehow is already being utilized across the world, that people are somehow familiar with it. So that's why I had selected Ethereum.
Cool.
We haven't started coding there yet. I architected the solution, and we're starting to evaluate how we're going to do all the integration just to make sure it's very secure. And right now, that's the blockchain network of choice.
Cool. So how do you classify your product? What development phase are you in? Are you like in beta phase, or you a 1.0 phase, or what phase are you in?
Yes, so beta phase. I'm using the agile principles, you know, fail fast, fail swift, fail very controlled in a controlled manner. So I released a beta version, which right now only supports job posting. So the employers kind of submits a form saying, hey, I need to post this job, these are the requirements, and they add information about them so I can reach out if I have questions. If they need a Spanish translation, then I post that on my site. So that's the beta version. It's very manual. I'm the admin, so I'm the one posting every job. And of course, I'm going to automate it, if you were wondering. So that's the next version that we're working on. So it will be kind of similar to Indeed when the employee itself can log in. They have their own dashboard. They can create a job post. If they need translation, it will notify me. Unfortunately, that's a step I cannot really automate completely. I can leverage some of the APIs for Google Translate and some other providers, but it's still, I need a human to just proofread to make sure it's correct. And once that goes live, then the employer can automatically receive notifications when someone applies, access the profile of any Hispanic workers, see reviews, work history, and then follow up with the candidate. So that's the next phase. And since I released my beta version 7 months ago, we have gained a lot of traction. Actually, when I released it, I only told the people at my church because I go to a Hispanic church. And that's where a lot of people would tell me, hey, do you know someone looking for a job? I'm hiring. Or some people would approach me and say, if you learn of a job, let me know. So then I said, okay, now I have a website. So I can just tell them, go to this website. Don't ask me more questions. So I started telling them about it, and it started growing like crazy. In 1 month, I have 140 people sign up. And I still have my full-time job. So I'm like, I don't have time to handle this. And that's why I ended up applying to the New Ventures Accelerator to get some funding. So I now have employees helping me manage it.
Now let's talk about the entrepreneurial process. So like you said you immigrated into the U.S. And so like you weren't speaking English when you first got here. You got educated. Talk about your education background.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So I was studying electronic engineering in Colombia. Then I moved here because my father moved here to the U.S. many years ago. And the immigration process is very slow, painful. So when finally my papers came, I could call, and I was like, okay, I'm leaving everything behind. I'm going. So I moved with my dad. I didn't speak English. It was hard to find a job because I didn't know people here, the language barrier. my dad pushed me to apply for a job as a waitress at a Marriott. Right. And I said, I barely speak English. So I knock on the door. He's old school, so he said, you go, you knock on the door, where it says HR, you tell them I need a job. So that's what we did. Right. that was, I think, like about 7 years ago. And they were in need of a waitress, and even with my broken English, they say, yes, we really need a waitress. Can you start tomorrow?
Wow.
I said, sure. Okay. I didn't speak English. I was lucky. Two of my coworkers, they were Latinas, so they said, we'll help you. Okay. I learned English on my own, but my plan was always to go to college. I was an engineer. That was my dream, building applications. So after I saved up, I worked there for a couple of years until I saved up enough money. I applied to UNC Charlotte, and I was admitted. I studied computer engineering. I graduated with a 4.0 GPA, and I started my first job. I was coding mobile applications for iOS. Okay. Then I transitioned into network architecture, software architecture, cybersecurity. Now we're here.
Yeah, that's great. So like you learned how to code, which is like all the people that watch this are coders or people aspiring to be a software developer. Would you say that your ability to code allowed you to pursue this dream of starting a company?
I think so. And in fact, I think that's probably the reason why no one has solved this problem before. Because if you think of the American workforce, that's not one of their main skills, coding, right? Yeah. And I realized when I noticed this problem, I said, well, maybe there's someone who could do something about it. It's me. Right. Maybe it's the time I need to step out of my comfort zone and do something. Okay. Yes. So
well, that's I think that's very inspiring, because a lot of people, especially U.S.-based people, they're trying to like start a business. They set up all these like roadblocks in their head of why they can't do things. You learn English, then you learned how to code, you educate yourself, and now you're at the cusp of launching this kind of great idea. And I think that's inspiring. And what do you think? What would you tell someone else who's thinking about starting their own idea?
Yeah, I think being an entrepreneur is more about passion and grit rather than your software skill. Because even at the point I am right now, I'm not going to build a platform because technology changes so much. You learn the basic, what you need to do something in a smaller scale, just to prove your concept. Right. Build something quickly. You can watch tutorials online. It's super cheap. Right. Build something very basic when you can just validate if that's what people want. Right. Once you realize, okay, this is what people want, then go find money, someone who help you pay for building it. But to build like a really good application nowadays, you need a team. Like and probably you're not gonna be like the same person building everything. Right. You might architect, provide some input, but really I would encourage them to go learn, be always passionate about what they do, and don't let any of that stop them. Always find a solution.
I can't tell you how deep that concept that you have is. Like most people don't know that. Most people think that when I'm starting my business or starting my idea, I have to get to this like extreme level, like 3 levels down. And what you're telling them is like, go ahead and build your beta and then start showing it to people as fast as you can, because that allows you to take in feedback and then change it. In case the marketplace says, oh, I like that, but have you thought about this or that? I mean, I think, I'm just going to compliment you. That is a very genius level idea that most people don't quite grasp. So I think you're going to be very successful. I hope you get selected for the lightning round. I know that you're excited about that.
Yes, I am.
But thanks for coming in, Elizabeth. We really enjoyed you. Good luck. Thank you. And we'll be right back here with Demo Day 2019. Hey, welcome back to Triad Demo Day 2019. We're here with Joshua Gimbel from Live Well Nutrition. They are a plant-based new wellness company, right? So tell me what does your company do?
So like you said, we are a plant-based wellness company, and our first product line is focused on making organic plant-based protein powder.
Okay, so it's plant-based versus like if I'm looking at the other kind of shakes and drinks out there, if I'm into nutrition, well, how does that compare to those other ones?
The most common that you'll find is whey protein, which is a byproduct of cheese production.
Right.
That's sort of like what has been known as the gold standard for a long time.
Right.
But plant-based is now sort of creeping in and taking hold of the market a bit.
Okay. So can I ask, like, when you say plant-based, what kind of plants, or like, what's the formula there, without giving away any trade secrets?
Sure. So we use a combination of 4 different plant-based proteins.
Right.
Hemp, sacha inchi, brown rice, and yellow peas.
Okay.
And the reason for those 4 is that in the plant-based kingdom, each plant has its own amino acid profile, and that's what builds and repairs muscles. So the combination of those chosen 4 makes the most dense amino acid profile for muscle building and recovery, repair, that kind of thing.
So this shake or drink, or this protein powder that I put into a shake and drink, is for someone that wants to improve their wellness, if they're working out, or things like that. Is that what's your target customer?
Yeah, well, so that's what's a bit interesting about our product is that traditionally, of course, protein is for building muscle and repairing after workouts, etc. But our product also is targeting people that are just looking to get their daily nutrition goals.
Okay.
So we sell to a lot of casual users, we'll call them.
Right.
People that are using this as, again, just to reach their number of protein that they want to hit every day. So it's not just people that are active and working out, although it can be used for that as well.
Right, so I can use it for meal replacement, or is it like in between meals, or what's it used for?
Yeah, one of the best ways to use it is to combine it with like fruits and vegetables in a smoothie, and then you get the fiber, the fruits and the vegetables, and the protein. You get sort of a complete meal out of your blender. It only takes a few seconds.
Okay. So obviously there's a lot of people in this space. Tell me the story, like what's the genesis for this idea? Like, what's your story?
So this all started a couple years ago, and I'm plant-based. I also work out a lot. With that, I was using a plant-based protein powder after my workouts, and what happened was the product that I was using was pulled off the shelf and sent to a lab for testing. I was actually a big food blogger that I follow. Yeah. And what turned out is that this product that's sort of marketed, trusted, be healthy, like I said, it's a big brand. You probably heard of it if you saw it. It was actually loaded with heavy metals, and it had chemicals like hexane, which is a byproduct of gasoline production. It's just real toxic stuff. So that sort of motivated me to look into this a little bit. I wanted to know where I can get a better product. And after going down that rabbit hole a little bit, I come to find out that it's very difficult to trust anyone in the supplement industry.
Yeah, so I'm with you that, like, so if I walk into a GNC shop, and you walk in there and you're trying to buy something, you always wonder, like, is this thing real? Like, should I drink this, or should I just go get a Coke? I mean, like, so like, so I always wonder that. So I guess you ran into that in a real way. It was actually tested, and you're like, hey, some of these things aren't naturally healthy. Right. And so how did you combat that? How do you go to formula and all that kind of stuff? How did you make sure that you're different?
Yeah, so again, I spent a lot of time R&Ding on this subject. And what we've sort of, instead of buying from, say, third parties that we actually direct straight from the source. Right. And one of the things that we're doing is offering a completely transparent supply chain. So our customers can log in, they can see every ingredient, where it comes from, how it's made, what is in it. Each batch is double lab tested, so they're able to see those results, so they know they can consume the product with confidence.
Okay, that's cool. That's really cool. So tell me a little bit about your background. Are you like a chemical engineer? How did you figure out how to put this all together?
Yeah, I actually have no food background whatsoever. Right. So my background is in marketing, and prior to this, I lived in the agency world for 5 years as a senior marketing manager. And so when I found out this that I was putting this stuff in my body that I wasn't so good, and I wanted to change that, it was basically just an entirely new experiment for me. I was in my apartment. I had bags of powder, scales, whisks. My roommate thought I was insane, and maybe I was. But yeah, it was a lot of trial and error.
Okay, so you did trial and error and just said, you know what? If I can't buy it, I'm just going to start making it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, really?
Exactly. That's how you did? I wanted to make it for myself, really. I didn't have any idea of creating a brand at the time. I just wanted a better product for myself. Okay. So yeah. So to me, that's inspiring, because a lot of people feel like I can't do something because this thing's impossible, or there's all these big giant companies, and there's no way that no one would buy my plant-based nutrition. How did you overcome those kind of fears in your head? Like, so I think that you don't necessarily need to, quit your job and jump all in to start something. I think that, for me, I was doing it on nights and weekends, just, in my spare time. And you can make a lot of progress just that way. And, once you hit sort of a point where you feel comfortable in what you're doing, then I think it's appropriate to sort of take that next step and maybe, quit your job or whatever it is.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the company a little bit. What so actually a little bit early on, like, what's the technology behind this? What are you using to get your message out and those kind of things? I know you're not necessarily a coder, but like there is a technology component to this.
Definitely. A little bit more than our competitors, I would say.
Right.
We use influencer marketing quite a lot in sort of spreading our message and getting the word out. It's also, one of the most affordable ways to do it instead of spending a ton of money on, social ads or something like that.
Yeah.
We actually built a piece of software that helped us identify high-value influencers at scale. So we built the software that's able to scan Instagram and basically extract information about, say you search hashtag vegan protein. We're able to go to every profile that used that hashtag and extract info like their name, their email address, their follower count, but most importantly, their engagement levels. And then we use that data to sort of target who we want to work with.
Okay, cool. And then you also set your e-commerce stuff up and
we use Shopify, and Shopify is great because it integrates with so many different apps and tools out there, marketing tools, automation tools. It's a very nice plug and play solution.
Yeah. I think that's really important for a lot of people that we talk to here are like software developers. And then when you talk to software developers, they feel like they have to code everything. Like we need to code the car door, we need to code everything. Yeah. And then what I think can encourage a lot of people is, why don't you use some of these great things that are already built, like Shopify, and then focus on something that's totally custom, like scanning Instagram, that you can't really necessarily buy off the shelf or something like that, and then bring value there, and then let someone else do the other stuff that's already been conquered. So that's really smart.
Definitely. I think that Shopify has a lot of apps out there that allow you to do certain things, and then as a coder, there's probably things that you want to do differently, and then you can maybe piggyback off of that and sort of create your own solutions.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let's talk about the company. What stage are you in, and like where are you at right now?
Yeah, we're in I would say early growth stage. So we have two sides of our business. We have our wholesale side, our retail side. On the wholesale side, we sell mostly to restaurants, gyms, smoothie bars, places that are using the product as an ingredient.
Right.
And on our retail side, we're selling directly to consumer. We're actually not in a tremendous amount. We're not focused on getting into brick and mortar retail, more so building the community online.
Right. And so is that because you think you can have better margins if you just go direct to consumer, or like, and when you put it in the store, they take a lot of it from you, don't they?
Yeah, definitely from a margin perspective, for sure. And then also I think that, one of the things that sets us apart is that community factor, and that's one of the things that we're really focused on is building that online community. And I think that, for a product like this, there needs to be more brand, less product, and so we're focused on building the brand.
Okay. So tell me what's your hope for the future? Where do you go from here? You're here today, hoping to raise funds here today. Is that where you're looking for investment, or like what's your kind of your strategy right now?
Yeah, so we are searching for a partner for our seed round right now. We're raising for our first round of capital, and that money is really going to be used for growth and scaling operations, increasing our inventory, new hiring, business development. Right now we need to develop our processes a little bit as far as fulfillment and things like that to be more scalable. So at the moment, we're just focused on scalability.
Okay, that's cool. So what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be? Like when you talk about scalability, what are you talking about? Scaling sales or scaling production of the materials, or what do you think?
Yeah, both really.
Okay.
Both. Right now, one of the biggest hurdles that we have is our fulfillment, and so we're fulfilling somewhat manually. We have a space that we're controlling all the touch points, and again, because we're trying to develop this great customer experience, we need to customize that fulfillment side of things. So we actually we write handwritten notes to our first-time customers. We supply them with samples, information. We do product collabs with other companies. So we have to find the right partner that allows us to have that kind of control, and so that's been a challenge.
Okay. So how do you approach now, like you've got your pure powder right now, are there other products that you want to do, or like what's the future? Paint Paint a vision of the future for me.
Yeah, I think that the next product line that we're eyeing up is a complementary product to what we have now, and it's a functional powdered food. And basically we're looking to tackle this problem. In the US, actually $160 billion of fresh fruit and vegetables are wasted every year. And combine that with 9 out of 10 adults in the US don't get their 5 servings of fruit and vegetables a day. We see an opportunity to create a product line that addresses this problem. And we're calling this dry juice. And basically what it is it's dehydrated fruits and vegetables. So we collect the vegetables that are going to be thrown out, we dehydrate them, we grind them up, and it becomes a functional food powder. That powder has the exact same nutritional properties as the fresh fruit, same vitamins, same nutrients, same fiber, virtually exactly the same from a nutrition standpoint, except for it has no water, and it has a long shelf life. And most importantly, it's 80% cheaper than fresh fruit and vegetables. So.
Right. Okay, that's kind of cool. So like, I would take this powder, I would just add water and have a meal at that point or something like that?
Yeah, you'd be able to, say, combine it with our protein powders to have a more nutritious meal.
Okay. And so that would be more of a meal replacement, something that you could drink or
yeah, it would
is
be
it like an oatmeal or like kind of how
it could be actually.
There's
There's a lot of different applications for our products, and our customer base is always showing us different ways that we would have never thought of how to use the products. You can use it in baking, cookies, brownies, muffins, all kinds of things that you wouldn't think of using a protein powder for. So yeah, I think that there's just a wide array of different applications.
Okay. So what's the what's your dream? Like when you're talking to investors now, they're always asking you probably like, what's your roadmap? But they want to know like, hey, how are you going to make money? But what's your ultimate goal for you, Dream, as you roll this business out?
Yeah, I think that the main mission here is to help people make better informed food decisions, and basically just help people be healthier. Right. I think that there's a big sort of problem here in the U.S. Where people don't even know what's good for them or what's healthy or how to be healthy. There's a lot of confusing information out there, so we want to be sort of a resource for people to be able to find good quality products and trust that.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I know that for me in my personal life, like when you go to lunch and if you eat out, it's like really difficult to find anything healthy whatsoever. We finally have like calorie counts, but like we really don't know what's in a Whopper. We know it's bad, but we don't know exactly what's in it.
Right.
Whereas this could give us a simple way to make something that's healthy and not necessarily go to a fast food restaurant or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, just that.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. And, what else can you tell me about Live Well Nutrition?
I don't know. What would you like to know? I mean,
what would you tell an investor? Why would an investor invest in you?
I think that we're solving this problem again of quick consumption. We want to be the most trusted quick consumption food brand. And I think in today's world where people have less and less time, but want to be more healthy, that we're sort of the perfect product, perfect brand for that.
All right, well, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Joshua.
Thanks.
Good luck. I hope you get selected for those lightning pitches. I know that you're going to be excited about that today too. So I hope you get selected for that.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. We'll see you later. All right. And we'll be right back here at Demo Day 2019. New Ventures. I'm Bobby Davis with Foundry. I'm here with John Austin, NC Idea Foundation, and we're going to talk about what you do in the industry and how you're helping these startups get placed and get their businesses launched in North Carolina. So tell me a little bit about what NC Idea Foundation does.
So NC Idea is a private nonprofit foundation.
Right.
Our mission is to grow the North Carolina economy by helping startups. And we do that with a variety of programs. We make some grants to organizations that help startups. But more importantly for probably most of the people in your audience, we make grants directly to startups to help them go from what is mostly an idea to the point where they could either have the revenue to continue that, to grow the business, or to find angel or VC funding.
Okay, and so just to be clear, a grant means you give them money and they don't have to pay it back necessarily,
no equity is involved in the transaction.
Right. Yeah. That's really good. That's really cool. So we talked earlier about this a little bit, but it sounds like there's a deadline for one of the grants right now?
Yeah, so we have 2 grant programs for entrepreneurs. One is called a seed grant, which is a grant of $50,000. Companies that win that grant are typically at a stage where they might have a customer, they at least have a prototype, they've got at least a little bit of validation,
right.
And we make 5 of those grants every 6 months.
Wow.
At the same time, we have a grant program called the micro grant program. These are grants of $10,000, and that's for folks that are a much earlier stage. So at that point, it might just be an idea. You might need $5K to build a prototype.
Right.
And so we run those programs simultaneously, and as it turns out, the deadline for both of those is Monday.
Monday, okay. So if you want to write a grant, you need to get started like this weekend, and so let's tell us about the grant writing process. What makes a good grant? If someone says, I'm writing it right now, they're listening to you, John, like what would make a really winning grant?
So the first thing I tell people, we have stages of this. So the first stage is a relatively short application. We think probably 10 hours of work. Sure. I mean, you might be able to fill it out in an hour, but it's probably going to not be competitive just because it does require some thought. But really, what I tell people is that first application, it's kind of like a resume when you're getting a job. Mm-hmm. The purpose of the resume isn't to get a job.
Right.
The purpose of a resume is to get an interview.
To
get to the next stage.
Right.
So the purpose of this grant application is to get you to the next stage. So we get roughly 150 to 200 applications for each one of You're okay. I'm okay. A little background noise there. Yeah. We get 150 applications for each one of those programs, and we cut that down to 30 or 40. So the advice I give to someone is it's a very short application. We in fact limit how many words you can use in each section.
Right.
And so what you're trying to do is not give us every last little detail about your business, but have us read that and say, wow, that looks like a really good idea.
Right.
That looks like a good sized market. This could be a good sized business.
Right.
And this founder has the capability to pull it off. Okay. I want to learn more.
Right.
Okay. You're not trying to convince me to give you $50K.
Right.
You're trying to convince me to learn more.
Right. So I was talking to another VC earlier in the day, and he was saying that when he hears pitches, if he doesn't know what the thing is supposed to do and how to make money within the first 30 seconds, he kind of shuts down. Is that kind of true in the grant process?
I think so as well. Especially like very technical founders.
Right. Yeah.
They want to tell us, all about the technology or the science behind it.
Right.
And that's great. But you're never going to be able to help. I'm never going to understand that in 30 seconds.
Right.
But what you can convince me of in 30 seconds is what's the business.
Right.
Who's going to buy this product? How much are they going to give you for it? How many people are there that want to buy the product? This is the problem it's going to solve for them, not your technology, but what's the problem you're solving?
Yeah, because I talk to a lot of people, and the first thing they want to do is they want to demo the thing, or they want to tell me that it's written in like Java or C#, and that's irrelevant really when you're at this stage.
Right.
Tell me what it does, and how is it, who's your customer, how do you plan to make money? I mean, I think that's also too, like, how do you drive revenue, right?
Right. What's the problem you're solving?
Right, yeah.
How bad is that problem?
Right.
How are you going to make money? There's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of great stuff out there.
Right.
But there's no way to make money yet.
Right,
So
exactly.
this is a business competition.
Right.
And the same is true with investors. It's not a technology competition.
Right.
Who's got the best widget?
Right. Okay, cool. Now we talked a little bit about ideas, so talk to me, how early stage are these companies, or do you want something beyond the idea stage, or like?
For the seed grant program on our website, ncidea.org, we actually have a little table there that kind of outlines about what stage you ought to be at in terms of various characteristics.
Right.
But in short, for that $50,000 grant, companies typically would have at least a prototype of their product.
Right.
They might have a user or two. In some cases, they might have made a sale. At some point, you can be too advanced to be competitive for grant. If you've already got $1 million of revenue, we're not going to make it. What do you need? What do you need our money for? If you've already raised $500,000 from co-founders or idea fund, the purpose of our grant is to get you to that stage.
Right.
So there's kind of a sweet spot of, I've got a prototype, I've got a user, I've got some validation that it works. For the micro grant, that can be basically just an idea.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a much earlier stage.
How do you evaluate an idea? Like, how do you do that? Like, I see ideas all the time, and so like, how do you evaluate that? Like,
I think it's the same thing. You know, is there a market for this? Is it solving a real problem? Does the founder have some capability that is going to let them pull it off?
Right.
And you know, we don't bias towards the kind of idea it is.
Right,
you know, like whether it's going to cure cancer, or whether it's a video game, or whether it's a B2B software product.
Right.
It's about building a business.
Right.
Okay. Not, you know, what the technology is.
Right. So is this idea, can it be a business?
Yeah.
You're trying to like read into that. Is it
we're trying to
scalable?
grow a business.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing, I mean, we're very cognizant of the fact that that idea you have today may or may not be, and in fact probably won't be, the thing that actually makes money.
Right.
You know, so many, you look across so many companies that have pivoted from exactly what they thought they were going to do.
Right.
It happens more often than not.
Right. I really think that when I talk to technology people, sometimes we get so stuck in the weeds, because I'm a coder as well, that we can't step out of that and look at how people perceive what we do. And also too, we get like protective, like it's our child. And when someone says, you know, you ought to change that, they're like, no way, I can't change that. So how do you talk to people like that are like kind of reluctant to change because they think their way's the only way to do it?
So what I say is the best entrepreneurs, the most successful entrepreneurs are folks that are stubborn and flexible.
Right, okay.
All right. You have to be stubborn enough to hold on to your idea for a company.
Right.
That even though people like me, people like you are saying, that's not a great idea, that's never going to work.
Right.
You still need to be able to hold on to it. And yet you have to be flexible enough to listen to customers, listen to people who are going to buy your product, listen to advisors,
right.
and change and pivot and modify as you go along. You've got to be stubborn about building a company, not stubborn about building this product.
Right.
And that's where I see a big difference.
Yeah.
And often it's with technologists, and I can say that because I used to be one.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you love to build this thing.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're so excited about this thing, and
right.
I know everybody's going to want it.
Right.
Well, let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And when your customer tells you that, okay, I don't need this thing, but I need this little bit of it, and I need this thing over here, to say,
yes.
maybe that's what I ought to be building. And
right.
those are the successful entrepreneurs.
Because I think one of the mistakes that early people make is they spend 2 years building the perfect product. And what I wanted them to do is get to MVP first, minimum viable product first, show it to 100 people, and then, but a lot of times, and we talked about this too, like, they don't want to show it because they're afraid someone will steal the idea. Let's go through that a little bit, like, and encourage these guys over here, like, you got to put it out there eventually, you know?
And the sooner you put it out there, and the idea or an MVP, and by an MVP, it doesn't even necessarily have to be code.
Right, yeah.
What you're trying to do is test your riskiest assumption.
Right.
You know, will people behave how you think they will?
Right.
Are they actually interested in your solution?
Right.
Do they have a big enough problem? And sometimes you can do that without code.
Yeah.
And so that's the very first thing. The other thing is getting feedback on that idea early on from potential customers, from advisors, from people who have been in the industry is
right.
just so valuable. That's what's going to help you understand whether it's a great idea or not.
Right. And where you need to change or pivot or modify like that. So I get people coming to me a lot, and a lot of times the first thing I get from them is they want me to sign an NDA to listen to their idea. And you said you had open offices hours on Fridays?
Yep, so I talk to 3 or 5 entrepreneurs a week.
Right, wow, okay.
And I evaluate nearly 500 applications a year through our grant program.
Wow.
Not me solely, but our team does.
exactly.
So we see a lot of ideas.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times someone sat down and said, well, I don't want to tell you my idea, and I, sign an NDA. I said, I'm not going to do it. I hear too many ideas.
Right, yeah.
And eventually they're kind of convinced to tell me a little bit about what they're doing. And I'm sitting there going, well, about 3 months ago, somebody came in here and it was almost exactly that same idea. And what I tell them is, I said, let's say you're 1 in a million. Let's say you're really special.
Right.
Okay? If you're 1 in a million, there's 350 million people in the U.S.
Right.
There's 350 people just like you
Exactly.
who probably have your idea.
The same idea.
It's not the idea, it's
Right.
the execution.
The execution, right.
It's being able to actually take everybody, there's millions of ideas. Everybody's got an idea. The ones that are successful are the ones that grind it out and execute and get things done and get to market faster than anybody else.
Right. So I told you this story, and I'll tell you it again. I was talking to somebody, and I said, if you wanted to open a restaurant, what you would do is what you should do, instead of trying to open the restaurant first, invite 20 of your closest friends, maybe your parents and everybody like that. Charge them $25 to come to eat dinner with you on a Sunday night, and if they all show up, you should open that restaurant. And
That's the MVP.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly the kind of mentality you have to have. Is what is it that I could do to validate whether people want my product without doing anything?
Right, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm just
and
cooking
without
dinner.
spending any money.
Right,
and in fact, you might make some money there if you're charging people $20.
Yeah, so exactly. So what do you do in the Accelerate program? Let's talk a little bit about that. How does that work?
Okay, so we have a program called NC Idea Labs, and we bring companies in for a 4-week program, and it is all about this customer discovery process. So most of the time the folks just have an idea.
Right.
Every once in a while we'll get a company in that's they've sort of got a product, but maybe it's stalled, maybe they're not growing their business.
Right.
But it's all about customer discovery, customer validation.
Okay.
And going out and getting on the street and doing customer interviews. If you've got an MVP, seeing how customers are using it, getting feedback. But it's 4 intense weeks of just validating your basic assumptions and trying to, they say, fail fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Especially in the software business. There's so much you can do to quickly understand whether you've got even the kernel of something, and you can do that. I can guarantee you in almost any case, you have to do some of that before you write a line of code.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that too. So, okay, so how do they get in that grant or the Accelerate program?
So similar to our grant program, we have an application process. We run that program every few months. The next cycle is starting Monday, so obviously applications for that are closed.
Yeah.
The next cycle of that will be right after the first of the year.
Okay.
And the application deadline, I don't know for sure yet, but probably in November.
November sometime.
We have a newsletter we send out every couple weeks. I'd encourage you to go to our website and sign up for that. We have all our deadlines are always in there.
Yeah. And the URL to that is
ncidea.org.
ncidea.org. Okay. Well, thanks, John. Thanks for
You're
coming
welcome.
in.
Great.
All right. We'll be right back in a few minutes with our next guest. We're waiting for Henry Amar, the keynote speaker for today, and real excited to talk to him at Demo Day 2019.
The success stories from the Coder Foundry just keep rolling in, and you can add your name to the growing list. The Coder Foundry is a company, a school that teaches you how to code, how to make apps, how to be a software designer and developer in only 12 weeks. And you don't need any experience, and you don't need a college degree. Right now, during their Launchpad program, you don't even need tuition. You go in for 12 weeks. Intense training on how to be a coder, how to do the software, all of those things. And if you don't get a job at a designated salary on the other side of those 12 weeks, you pay no tuition at all. Nothing up front and no tuition ever in this Launchpad program, which is filling up fast and starts next month. Making those dreams come true for over 5 years now. CoderFoundry.com. Go there today and find out if it's right for you.
Today's episode is brought to you by FizzBuzzEnergy.com. When you need to hit that deadline, grab some coding energy in a can. Tastes great and makes the ultimate desktop accessory. Go to FizzBuzzEnergy.com.
Maybe you want to work for a startup or the largest company on the planet. Or maybe you want to change the world. Coder Foundry. Learn to code, code the future.
Hi, welcome back to Demo Day 2019. I'm Bobby Davis, the co-founder of Coder Founder. I'm here with Henry Amar. He is the keynote speaker for today's conference. A very exciting thing. His website is makeithappen.life. Thanks for Henry. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's talk a little bit about you. I'm really interested in you. Tell me your story. I mean, you've got this great story.
Yeah, so I've had the most crazy journey, right? And I think a lot of people watching probably feel the same. I was in music for a while, the music industry. Did really well. We checked the boxes off. We were on an album that won a Grammy. A lot of cool stuff happened, but something had happened in music, and I wanted to take a break from it. And I love to create. I think a lot of people that love to do this we're all creators. Everybody's a creator. And so I started a company with a friend and a cousin, actually. And we grew it internationally in a year and a half. And I just had this feeling like I needed to sell my shares and go back to school. Right. And I wasn't a student, so I went to USC for business.
Right.
The University of Southern California.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then I went into commercial real estate development, did really well there, became a director of investments for a $2 billion company. And 3 years ago, just realized I left the safe space, right, for what I felt passionate about was helping other people. And I've been obsessed with human behavior for like 20 years because when I was a teenager, I was the most insecure, passive person I'd ever met. My nickname was Passive.
Wow.
And I felt caged, and so the fact that I was able to break through myself and help so many people, I was like, I want to give this to the world, because what do I want to say I did when I was on my deathbed? When I look back, do I want to say what's going to make me light up? And I think that was it. So.
Okay. So I think a lot of people forget about that as we go through life, we're making our legacy whatever we do.
Totally.
It can be good, it can be bad, or it can be somewhere in between. And I think the worst legacy is like when you die, you never really helped anyone.
Right.
What would you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, one of the biggest things was, when I started to feel like I needed to make a change, the same time period my mother was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting there in the hospital for 12 hours saying, the reality is, and it sounds crazy, but one day that will be me in one way or another.
Right.
And what do I really, really want to say I did? Do I want to say I stayed in my comfort zone, or do I want to say I lived?
Right.
And I think I realized so much time in life we live on autopilot, and it's time to take back our power and say, this is my life. I want to live every freaking moment. And for me, it is about helping people, using my own story and my journey to help people. So
yeah, okay, that's exciting. So I see this a lot at Coder Foundry. We're literally taking people that are middle-aged life, or what they consider late stage. And a funny story. I talked to a guy that was super old. He was 28 years old. And so he was telling me that could he could still learn, or is it too late for me? And I kept telling him, there's people at 50 that are still alive. So what do you talk about the person that maybe is like launching what they consider late? What should they do? Should they let that past define them, or how should they look at the future?
No, I mean, it doesn't. You may have more experience than somebody else.
Right, yeah.
Right,
okay.
like your life, I think everything happens at the time it should when you're ready for it. And it sounds optimistic, but for me, I'd rather think that than not.
Right.
You know, what's the other option, right? So I changed my career. I quit my job at 36.
Right, yeah, you were old.
Yeah, old, but I still feel like I don't care if 10 years from now, if I want to make a change, I'm going to make the change because
Absolutely.
It's never too late. It's funny, Tony Robbins was talking about a story of a lady who was like 94.
Right.
And she's like, wow, 30 years ago, I did this thing. And he's like, 30 years ago for her was 64. 64 was 30 years ago. Like we think, we live as if we have the time in the world, but we act as if we don't have any time, right? My thing is like, it doesn't matter, even if it's inside of you, like, and you feel you're supposed to give it, just do it.
Right.
It doesn't, even if you're the only, when I was in college, I went late. I was the only one that was 28, 29 in a room full of 18 and 19-year-olds. But it benefited me because I had different life experience.
Right.
You know?
I was in college too at the age of 25.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a SAS class, and I was already a programmer. I had my first degree, and I can remember sitting in that SAS class, and they said, hey, who wants to be lab partners? And I was like the old dude at 25, and no one would be my lab partner. And then I finished it in like 4 minutes, and everyone's like, oh, I want to be with you. And I'm like, that's too late now, man.
Too late.
You gotta work on that lab with your buddy over there.
Everybody has strengths, man.
Right,
We all, no matter where you are in your life, in your stage with your experience, everybody has gifts.
Yeah.
Everybody has strengths, but we sit there and we tell ourselves these stories that don't even make sense. Like, who says what's old and what's not?
Exactly.
Who dictates that? Like, nobody dictates what's socially normal. Like, if nobody's done it, then great, you be the first one.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk to a lot of people. They come to Coder Foundry. They're trying to change their life. They're trying to say, I used to do this. Now I want to be a software developer because I want to start a company or I want to work in a different career. How can you encourage someone to like just go ahead and make that leap?
Yeah, I mean, if it's what you really want to do, first of all, I'm more afraid of being afraid and stuck. Like, I call it the rocking chair.
Yeah.
When I'm an old man in my rocking chair, like looking back, are you going to say, I'm so glad I didn't go after it?
Right.
You're going to say, man, I'm so glad I chased my dream and I lived it. What are you afraid of failing? Like, if you fail, you're not a failure, you're a grower, you're a doer, you're someone that has courage to do it, and courage becomes confidence.
Right.
Like, everybody that's done anything has started somewhere.
Right.
You know, and for me, what I did is I'm changed my careers, it looks like, so many times, from music to entrepreneurship to corporate America to, back to entrepreneurship.
Right, yeah.
And for me, every time, like, is fear going to show up? Are you going to have those doubts show up? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the question is, are you going to let them dictate your life? Because fear is a great counselor, but a terrible dictator.
Right.
Right? And so a lot of people were like, oh no, I'm too older. I don't want to quit. I don't want to quit my safe job. Look, what I did was, I knew that I said, I have to do this. And I gave myself a runway and said, okay, who do I need to know? What do I need to know? What kind of capital do I kind of need to do this? And I sat there and said, I'm going to work this job. And here's the crazy thing. If you spend 1 hour a day on something, just 1 hour, in 1 year, it's 365 hours. You divide that by a 40-hour work week, that's 2 months of a 40-hour work week.
Right.
You dedicate it to your thing.
Right.
We think, oh, I don't have time. It's like, you have an hour in the day, you can make an hour in the day.
Yeah.
If it's really your dream and your passion, you could find a way to like brainstorm, find someone to meet. And my thing is, I'm much more afraid of being stuck in that place than going after. So my thing is, if you have a gift or if you have something in your heart, then by all means figure out what you need to know, who you need to know, what kind of capital you need to do, and figure out those limiting beliefs, those fears that are holding you back, because they're just stuff you've created since you were younger. They're stories. Yeah. Everybody's the same. Everybody who's successful started somewhere. It doesn't matter. Some started with more knowledge than you, some started with less. But my thing is like, do not live in a box. Go after it. And you have foundations, you have places like where they can come and learn.
Right, yeah.
Right? That give you an established strength and more experience and more knowledge to go out and compete, you know?
Right. So, because I talk to a lot of students a lot, and And also in my own life too. You know, I've started 3 companies, and and there's been days where it's been really hard.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with my wife. She says, "When are we going to quit?" And I said, we're never going to quit.
I love that.
Because I think what would drive me crazy would be the not trying.
Yeah.
And like I would always, that's the thing that would keep me awake. Like, man, if I would have just stayed in it one more day or 2 more days, and I think that's what motivates me.
Totally.
What can you say to motivate someone else to say keep going?
You know, I first I want to say I think it's important to be lovingly self-aware. Like we have to know yourself.
Right.
You have to know what's limiting you, what's stopping you. Because if you're hesitating, there's some thought you have in your mind. What fear is it that's stopping you? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of what other people are going to say about you when you quit?
Yeah.
Is it what your mom or dad are going to say?
Right.
Because they lived in a different world, right? Like they lived in a world where you're a lawyer.
Exactly.
And so somebody that wants to quit is, one trick you can do is I call it borrowing from the future.
Right.
Where create such a compelling future that when I make this happen, no matter what, I always say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you have to make real decisions. Like even the root of the word decision means to cut off.
Right.
So if you're considering quitting, you didn't make a real commitment.
Yeah.
You never really decided,
Right.
right? Because if you made a decision, you're cutting off, you're burning the bridge technically, and you're going to find a way to make it work. And at the same time, be self-aware. Like, I always thought I was going to do music, and that was going to be initially what it was.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? Music is awesome. I want to take a break. I'm going to start this. And now I've taken all my experience and I'm putting it in one pot, and that's why I'm on festival stages and partnering with all these big people, because all of my experience. So my thing is, you have to create a compelling future. Know why the heck you're doing it. I know I'm being long-winded, but this is a really cool story. So imagine this. You're on an 80-story building, right?
Yeah.
And you're facing another 80-story building, and there's a wooden plank about this big between the buildings. And I said, hey, I'm gonna give you $20. Would you cross the plank? Most people will be like, you're crazy. There's no way I would ever do that.
Right, yeah.
Right? But if all of a sudden the building behind you starts to burn, you better believe you're gonna find a way to crawl across that plank.
You're running that thing.
Same action, different why.
Right, yeah.
Or it could be that, or it could be someone you love is on the other side and something's happening to that building, you have to go help them, this baby or whatever.
Right.
So my thing is, we would cross a little bridge to do that, but the only difference is the why, same action.
Right.
So why do you want to do what you do? Why does it matter so much to you? And paint this future so much that every day when you see it, you're like, oh, this is why I'm doing this.
Right.
How is it going to impact my family, myself, my finances, my vision, my dream when I'm older? So you stack all these reasons why you should. Now guess what? Now you've tipped it over this way.
Right.
Yeah,
and sometimes that board that looked like this can now look like this.
Totally.
Because you're like, oh, I have to do this.
Yes.
Like it's built in me. I can't stop. I've
Yeah.
got to. And then like I love that. Like, the building's burning, you would run across it.
Right.
But if someone said, can you just do it for the money? You're like, nah, not really.
Exactly.
So you have to find something else. You have to find your why.
Yeah, deeply
Yeah.
your why, and really make it personal.
Yeah.
And when this thing starts going, which the doubts will come in. The doubts come in no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say, like if a bird is flying over your head, it's gonna fly. Just don't let it build a nest.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And our mind is made to survive. It's made to look for the problem. So if you just go on default mode every day,
Right.
and you don't make a decision every day, what are you going to focus on? Probably the negative aspects, probably
Yeah.
the fears, probably all that stuff.
Right.
Versus waking up every day and saying, I'm deciding again today.
Yeah. Especially for entrepreneurs, like when we try to start something new, it's really funny when you do that. And I give a speech on this several times where when I first started my very first company, my mom said, why don't you get a job? And I'm like, well, I thought I was making one. And so
Right.
you get all of these negative forces because they don't want you to fail. So they think that they're giving you good advice.
Right.
When really, you're listening to all these negatives. How do you cut through all that? Like, how do you do that?
That's a great question. I mean, people, I always think there's 3 phases when we're making a change.
Yeah.
Right? First phase is people that care about you are going to reject it if it's a big change.
Yeah.
Most of them be like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
this is safe, because that's, everybody will tell you something based on their own filter.
Right, yeah.
It's their own filter, and
Right.
sometimes, and I always say this, it's really important to listen, put it through your own filter and say, what is really true?
Right.
And what is not? What is fear-based? What is safe? And what is not? And they may guide you to something else. I'm not saying cut everybody off, but in a macro level, people are going to reject it first. Then they're going to be like, that's cool, I accept it, that's cool for you, but you should probably. Then all of a sudden you make it, then they respect it.
Yeah, they say, I knew you would do it.
I knew you were going to do it. Like when I was doing my music, I remember my father, bless his heart, he was, wanted me to be safe. He's like, you should just do law like your sister, She has a car, she has this, And I'm like, Dad, but I'm supposed to do music. I love my dad's like, how many musicians are making money,
Right, yeah.
I'm like, but I'm different. He's like, everybody says they're different,
Right, yeah.
But I did it, I pushed, and I would work to make ends meet. And then one day, when we opened up for a really big artist at the House of Blues in LA, my first bigger show, the curtains open up and we're singing and girls are screaming and everybody's screaming and my dad's like, yeah, this is my son, look at that. And I'm like,
I knew he would do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's everybody's going to share their perspective and you could listen to it. But it's not true. Just because you think something or someone says something doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
If people believed that, Walt Disney, they told him you weren't creative. You went bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
They told him, you're never going to make it. You're not even talented. And then yet, everybody knows who Disney is. Lucille Ball, they told her to get a different job, right? Like the guy from Starbucks got rejected, but from 254 banks.
Right.
And they're like, that's crazy. Coffee, people buy coffee for $0.25.
Right.
Why so? But if they listen to all those people, the experts,
right.
And on my podcast, Lindsay Sterling, I don't know if she's a dancing violinist.
Right.
She has 2 billion views on YouTube. She was on America's Got Talent on national television in front of 2 million people. They told her you'll never sell out a stadium and you sound like a dying rat.
Wow.
And now she sells out stadiums across the world. Her story is awesome. If you listen to the episode of my podcast, and she's 2 billion views on YouTube. Actually, probably more now.
Right, yeah. She probably just got another 100,000 right now.
Easily, So but if she would have listened to the expert, instead of knowing in her heart what she should do, we wouldn't know who she was. She makes an impact in the world.
Right. The other thing too that I think people underestimate is like, you set your goals really, really high, and that's on a high performer. But like, what if you just become like a little above average? And a lot of people think that if I don't become Mark Zuckerberg, I've failed in some way. But but what if you did employ 50 people and you just changed 50 people's lives?
Yeah.
That's really cool,
100%.
isn't it?
It's amazing, and comparison is the worst.
Yeah.
Right. In a good way, if like you could look and say, "Cool, I could be inspired by that guy." But if you're gonna walk around comparing, there's always gonna be someone better than you.
Right. Yeah.
There's always gonna be someone that's newer than you, that's younger than you, that's fresher than you.
Yeah.
So what?
Right.
Right. Like, do you like? If we walk around looking around the whole time, you're gonna miss your own path. So, my thing is, celebrate your wins and compare yourself to yourself. Like, are you a better version of yourself today?
Yeah.
Did you help somebody today? Did you move forward today?
Right.
And I'm telling you, like, maybe you'll be better than Zuckerberg, maybe you won't, but at least aim for it, be empowered for it, versus a disempowering belief. Because what you focus on expands, and if you're looking at somebody else and you're saying, oh, that person's better than me, I may never do that, guess what your mind is thinking? I'm never gonna do that. Guess what you're gonna believe? I'm never gonna do that, and guess what? You're never gonna do that.
And you'll quit.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
That's cool. So like, what I try to do is when we're talking to students, they're trying to change their lives, and they come to our school for 12 weeks, it's like 9 hours a day for 5 days.
Perfect.
You can't work while you're doing this.
I love that.
This is the only thing that you have to do.
Immersion. It's the best way to do it.
That's what we call it, immersion training. That's exactly what we call it. But like, it's without a doubt, like halfway through, I'll talk to like 20 or 30% of them, and I'm giving them the talk like, you can't quit now, man. Like you're halfway here. Like, why would you quit now?
Right.
And I think it's because the negative voices and the fear of like failure is like so strong,
Everybody didn't do something. I mean, if you were walking, at one point you couldn't walk.
Right.
But when you're a kid, you don't fall and be like, oh man, I fell, I'm just never gonna get up again.
Right.
Like, especially when it's tough is when it counts. That's why it's thinner at the top.
Right, yeah.
Because it gets tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And who's willing to make the real commitment? Who's willing to stick it through the hard parts?
Yeah.
Who's willing to do what nobody else is willing to do?
Right.
Those are the ones that succeed. If you quit because you know it's not for you, that's one thing. But if you quit because it's tough, or you think you're going to fail, or you let fear dictate your life, then man, that is not the way to live. You got to own your stuff. You got to go out there and just stick with it and find really cool mentors. It's cool they have you.
Yeah.
You've had experience. You've started a really amazing project in school, and like it's amazing. Immersion is the best way to do it.
Yeah. It is. It's really cool than what we do, but I think the quitting, the grit factor is like what I try to like tell them, like you just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
The thing I think is really important that people really underestimate is like, we live in America. Like that's the other thing that people that they vastly underestimate.
Right.
I started a company in Kernersville, North Carolina. You know, like this small town, and we talked about earlier, like this is your first time to North Carolina, man. You know, like, and
Holy
I have
cow.
people talk to me like, you're in Kernersville? I'm like, yeah, you can really do anything you want,
Really?
wherever you want. Isn't that true? I mean,
100%.
do I have to live in LA? I don't have to live in LA.
No, you don't have to live anywhere. I
Yeah.
travel the road most of the time.
Yeah.
Yet I'm running my company remotely. I literally did business this morning on my laptop in my hotel.
Right, yeah.
And you could be anywhere, and it's really cool. Even here, like, this is amazing what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, first of all, the food is amazing.
Yeah.
The people are really awesome. It's very artsy. So many driven people here. And on top of that, like, we live in a world now where you can create anything from anywhere.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think that's really great too. And you ate at Mary's Cafe.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think I gained like 7 pounds in one day, you know?
That's what Southern cooking will do. You know,
I'm
we're not about the kale here. You know, more
Yeah,
like
I know.
barbecue, biscuits, and gravy. You know,
It's
that's
very
kinda what we're
true.
into. So,
I love it. I've been at the biscuits. I'm going to have them later today or tomorrow. So.
Okay, that'd be good. All right. So, what else would you encourage someone that's watching us right now, and they're on the verge of making that decision, like
Look,
to do something?
My thing is, one of the greatest gifts we have is the gift of choice.
Yeah.
You know, we give it up so easily to the thoughts or what other people think, or we become puppets to life. We got to cut the strings.
Yeah.
We got to take back our power of choice. We got to own our lives. We got to decide to be the decider. It's the greatest decision of our life. And so if you're waiting and you're wondering what you should do, like really put life in perspective. Like, what do you really want?
Right, yeah.
You know, like, don't live on autopilot. Don't let, I have a song out. I do a ton of things, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's called Tomorrow. And the first 2 lines is all around me so many voices, because the voices in your head, what people's opinions are, what the internet's gonna say, what this is gonna say.
Right, yeah.
But I said freedom time, taking back my choices.
Right.
Because we give up our choices to life so easily. Like,
Right.
why do I give? So my advice is own your life. It's your life. What impact do you really want to make? What do you really want to say you did? And I don't care if you never get there. At least you could look yourself in the mirror when you're at that stage and say, you know what? I gave it everything I had. I put it all on the table. I don't care if I believe in myself 100%. I'm going to get there. But if I don't, guess what? I can look in the mirror and say, I put it all on the table.
I tried.
I tried my best, and I'm going to do better tomorrow and do better tomorrow.
Right.
And what I don't know today, I'm going to learn in a year.
Yeah.
And you have so much time.
Right.
So much more time than you think.
Yeah.
If you just start now. So.
Yeah, I was talking to a group of 8th graders, and we were talking about life and careers and things like that.
Cool.
And in 8th grade, they're talking about the careers. But I was telling them that I think the next, like Mark Zuckerberg is in 8th grade right now. He's going to learn how to, or she's going to learn how to code.
Totally.
And they're going to make the next thing.
Oh my gosh.
That we can't live without.
Totally.
But if they don't try,
Never
they'll
know.
never do it.
Never know. You'll never know. And most people don't believe in themselves enough to go for it.
Right.
But I'm sure Zuckerberg was afraid.
I guarantee he was afraid.
But he had courage.
Yeah.
And courage becomes confidence. Courage becomes something that you become better at. Like, it's about growth, right?
Yeah.
I can't go curl your pencil
Yeah.
and think I'm going to get strong. Like,
Exactly.
resistance is what makes us
Yeah.
strong. Like, it's the people willing to step against the wind to say, I'm not going to just lay down when the wind is there. I'm going to walk straight to it, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to go write my song or make my movie or, write my poem or build my company
100%.
or write my software. And that's what they should do.
A
Just
million
do it.
percent. And I'm telling you, look, this isn't a rah-rah thing. This is life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're going to rewire your mindset. You're always wiring it one way or another. It's like neuroscience. Like, when you study, like, these things, like, you're wiring your mind every day. Who are you becoming every day?
Yeah.
Are you becoming more afraid or more courageous? Are you becoming, more in a box? Or are you becoming more free? And after a while, be patient with yourself. Love is patient, love is kind. Be kind to yourself, be patient to yourself. But freaking love yourself enough to live, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
So.
Well, Henry, I enjoyed
Thank you so
talking
much.
to you, man.
Yeah,
I
same.
appreciate it. So I know you got to speak here in a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
Anyway, so it's Henry Marr, and it's Make Life Happen.
My podcast is Making It Happen with Henry Amar. You can find me on Instagram, Henry Amar, AMMAR at Instagram, or henryamar.com, or makeithappen.life. Any one of those things. I'm always creating, but I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Thank everybody for watching, and thank you.
And we'll be right back with Refuel, one of the high-tech startups that we've got coming in the show here. Thank you for being at Demo Day 2019.
Yeah.
The success stories from the Coder Foundry just keep rolling in, and you can add your name to the growing list. The Coder Foundry is a company, a school that teaches you how to code, how to make apps, how to be a software designer and developer in only 12 weeks. And you don't need any experience, and you don't need a college degree. Right now, during their Launchpad program, you don't even need tuition. You go in for 12 weeks. Intense training on how to be a coder, how to do the software, all of those things. And if you don't get a job at a designated salary on the other side of those 12 weeks, you pay no tuition at all. Nothing up front and no tuition ever in this Launchpad program, which is filling up fast and starts next month. Making those dreams come true for over 5 years now. CoderFoundry.com. Go there today and find out if it's right for you.
Today's episode is brought to you by FizzBuzzEnergy.com. When you need to hit that deadline, grab some coding energy in a can. Tastes great and makes the ultimate desktop accessory. Go to FizzBuzzEnergy.com.
Maybe you want to work for a startup or the largest company on the planet. Or maybe you want to change the world. Coder Foundry. Learn to code, code the future.
Hey, so welcome back. I'm here with Clifton Duhan. He is the CEO and founder of Refuel. This company provides predictive analytics and personalized nutrition for professional athletes and goal-oriented athletes. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell me more about what does Refuel do?
Sure. So what we're doing, we're looking to support the training aspect of athletes with nutrition. So nutrition is a very individualized thing.
Right.
It's very confusing. So what we're doing is we're taking metrics from the athlete and then providing them the plan based on what their goal is and then what their daily training is.
Okay, so I'm a cyclist. You may not know that by looking at me, but I try to cycle quite a bit.
Okay.
So how would I interact with Refuel? I'm not going to win the Tour de France,
right,
but I want to work up to where I can do like a 100-mile ride or something like that.
Sure.
How would I interact with you?
So first you start by, you'll create a profile on our web app. And then we're using like up to 30 key metrics that look at what your specific needs are, so we can assess those energy needs. And then each day you'll add in what you're training. And then based on your training, it will adjust your energy requirements, and then it just spits out a nutrition plan for you.
Okay.
So it'll tell you what to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, your snacks, what to eat during your ride, what to eat after your ride.
Okay.
And then through the Garmin platform, we're actually monitoring your exercise, and we're telling you how much energy you have available to use for that ride, when you need to eat, when you need to drink based on your current needs.
So if I have a Garmin bike computer,
yep,
it's integrated there as well.
Yeah, so you just download your nutritional data from the web app, and it'll tell you I've got X amount of energy available, and then based on your intensity, it's saying eat now, drink now, based on whatever your current needs are.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool. So like, so how specific is the nutrition plan? Does it tell me like certain foods to eat, or like how? Tell me what will I see?
So when we first started, we just gave a number,
right?
Because we're like, I'm like an educator. I want to tell you why you do this, and then people are like, I don't care. Just tell me what to eat. So it'll basically just give you a meal, a recipe, and say here's an omelet with oatmeal for breakfast, and then it'll have your recipe broken out, and then your ingredient list. So it gets it down to basically we don't want you to have to think about it.
Right.
You just eat what it tells you, and then go out and ride your bike, and then everything's good to go.
That's cool. Normally, I'm just going to read in a little bit about this. Like normally, if you're like what I call a goal-oriented athlete or someone that's just trying to do some things, you're not playing for the New England Patriots. You're not Tom Brady.
Right.
He has people around him to do this kind of stuff. But now your platform allows me to get that same kind of like advice and nutrition, or better, even better. Yeah, that would allow me to get the same kind of results to maximize what I'm trying to do. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we say is like having the best sports dietitian at your fingertips.
Right.
And we'll never be able to replace the human nutrition professional.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that human can look in your eyes and say, you can go a little bit harder, we need to tweak this.
Right.
But not everyone can afford that.
No.
And if you were going to have someone analyze your nutrition on the daily, I mean, you're going to pay $500, $600, $700 a week.
Right.
You know, so it's a lot of money.
Right.
So we're able to do that for $15 a month.
Right.
So you'll look at, you know, and it's in real time for you. So we'll tell you based on what you're eating for breakfast and lunch, that bike ride, it knows it's coming up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Are you eating enough to support that? And if not, it'll tell you, you're not ready. So you need to adjust the workout, or you need to adjust your intake to get ready for that workout.
Because that's really important. I can, you know, like my wife wants me to ride more,
right?
But she doesn't want me to hire a nutritionist so I can ride more.
Right.
She says, I want it not that bad.
Yeah.
But something like Refuel allows me to get that same kind of result or same kind of expertise in my life so I can achieve those goals. Right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about the company. Like what's your business model? How do you make money and those kind of things?
Yeah, so right now we're B2C, and then it's a subscription model.
Right.
So it's $14.99 per month or $150 per year.
Okay.
And then you get access to the web app. And then we have certain Garmin devices that it's compatible with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the Garmin device, then you get access to that as well.
Okay. So what's your roadmap? Are you going to support other devices? I know there's like Strava and there's like other kind of like bike people out there, and then running people as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we're releasing our beta MVP next week.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the plan is we'll get some feedback from users.
Right.
And then by the first of the year, we're going to expand out into Android and iOS.
Okay.
So because you're carrying your phone with you anyway,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So we can take the phone, we can run our algorithm through that, and then just pull in the data. Like if you're using Strava,
Right.
there's no sense in us reinventing that.
Making another Strava.
Right. So we
yeah.
just pull in that data. It does the nutrition piece for you.
Right.
And then you'll have your whole plan based off of whatever hardware you're using.
Okay. So it's a recurring revenue model, kind of things like that. What stage are you in right now? Do you have customers or?
Yeah, we do. So we've got some early traction.
Right.
We have some B2B traction. We weren't really focused on that, but it just kind of came up. You don't, at this stage, you don't ever want to tell anyone no, right?
Exactly.
So we've got some good traction. Like I said, we're releasing the MVP and beta testing next week, and we're looking for the full version to be released in January.
Okay, cool, awesome. So this is a big, strong software component that's doing this. So how did you achieve that? I know we talked earlier, you're not a coder, but
right.
So how did you get this off the ground?
Yeah, so it's been a challenge because I'm a non-tech guy.
Right, yeah.
So it's been a learning process, and
Right.
me playing CTO just is it doesn't go that well.
Right, yeah.
The way my brain works and the way a developer's brain works are just two completely
we are
different
different
things.
beasts, I know
right?
that.
So we've we've taken our lumps along the way, but
Right.
we've just kind of worked through it, and we started with a content management system on the front end because it's just easier, so we don't have to build completely
Sure.
from the ground up, and then we were basically just kind of laying in our components on top of that.
Right.
Challenges with that, along the way, but it's working, and now we're looking at moving forward. It's time to, MVP's done, it works, we're getting traction, now it's time to focus on the bigger picture.
So currently right now it's a web application?
It is, yeah.
Okay, and so you what is that built in? These geeks that are watching this and want to know, like, hey, what's your stack?
Yeah,
man?
so we initially started building this in 2016.
Okay.
And we built it onto a Joomla template.
Yeah.
Which might be one of the biggest mistakes I ever made through this whole thing. So that's what it's built onto. And it's PHP and some Java, and then there's SQL databases as well.
Cool. How are you doing the analytics piece of this? Because this is spitting out numbers and things like that.
Yeah, so we just wrote in, the way that I did it is I just wrote in the algorithm into a spreadsheet and gave it to the developer and said, I need the computer to do exactly what's in this.
Okay.
And so they just went in and coded it into the, into the back end. And
Spit
so
the right number out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we do. We look at, this is the number in, what's the number out, it matches. So it's good to go.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. How
Sure.
did you come up with this? Like what made you want to enter this? Because this is a unique thing.
It is.
And not everyone would think of this. So how did you come up with this?
So my background's strength and conditioning.
Okay.
And I moved into the endurance world in 2007.
Right.
And so in 2012, I said there has to be a better way to log your food.
Right.
And right now we're using 4 metrics like your height, your weight, male, female, and your perceived activity.
Right.
Like this, it's archaic. It's looking at some formula that written in 1950s.
Right.
We're much more evolved than that.
Right.
So we just started that process, and we were talking about AI in 2012, and people just looked at us like, you're crazy. There's no way the computer's going to tell you what to eat. I'm like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it took us 4 years, before we finally broke ground. And so now you look at AI, it's running, a lot of things.
Right.
Especially from the training aspect. I mean, there are programs now that you'll enter in your goal, and then it just spits out your entire training plan leading up to that.
Okay.
So we're looking to do the exact same thing from the nutrition side.
Okay. And so you'll be moving into even more complex type things on the AI front and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
because we want the algorithm to know you.
Right.
So if we tell you to eat a certain way and you eat that way, but when you go out to train, if the numbers don't match, then there's an issue there.
Right.
So the platform, the algorithm will find that and adjust it so that next time you go out for that ride, it's already adjusted your needs based on your past data.
So this also, I'm going to read into this a little bit. This also makes sure that me as the consumer, that I don't want to lie to myself. I got to put my actual things in. I don't want to lie like, man, I rode 100 miles, man. What's wrong with this nutrition plan?
Yeah.
When I really did 5.
Yeah.
So like, does it keep them accountable and keep them going?
It does. So that's going to be the biggest challenge because like logging your food it's tedious.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting people to comply with that,
right.
We're trying to figure out like what is that piece, and so we try to make it as simple as possible.
Right.
But we think that once you find that when I do enter my information and I do what I'm supposed to, the result far outweighs the 5 minutes that it takes me to actually input my stuff.
Exactly.
But that's something, we're always going to have some sort of margin of error, right? Because you're going to say you did this, but you didn't.
Right.
And then so you just got to piece all that data together and figure out where your outliers and just kind of focus in that, that main stream.
Right. So hopefully AI will give us say, hey man, you lied to me. Don't lie to me.
And then so for some athletes, we can tell them if they're lying because we have the ability to scan their muscles.
Okay.
So you can say I ate X amount of carbohydrate. We'll scan your thigh and say, you're lying.
You're lying.
You didn't eat that, right?
So, and that's why you're not as fast today.
Exactly.
Right.
And so having that accountability, we think it'll help drive them and keep them more focused to actually put in valuable data.
Okay, that's cool. So so let's talk to investors a little bit. I know you're here at investor conference and you're hoping to raise money. Why would an investor want to invest with you in Reach?
Well, first, we're the only person in the space that's doing this.
Okay.
There's a lot of companies looking from the training aspect and looking at injury prevention from how do I train my body, but no one is supporting that with the nutrition component.
Okay.
So we're doing that, so it definitely sets us apart. We've got some good traction, some things. We made some partnerships yesterday we can't really talk about, but there's a pro league that will start analyzing all their data in the next couple of weeks. So we're really on the forefront looking at how nutrition affects the athlete, but it's really larger than that, right? It's how does the food you eat today affect your overall health tomorrow.
Okay.
When we start talking about preventative care, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and we know food is medicine, and we're just now starting to understand what does that mean.
Right.
So that's really where the larger play for the investor is going to come in.
Right.
Is so when we can start looking at preventing type 2 diabetes or things like that has a more appeal to like the general audience.
Right. Have you talked to any like other vendors that would want to say, hey, eat my special food or anything like that, and recommend that in the platform? Have you gone that route, anything like that?
So we have a couple of partners, and one of our partners on the meal planning side. So essentially what they do is they handle all the meal planning preparation. So we just plug in, to their API. So they're driving all of that, like curating all the meals, ensuring they're all accurate, looking at where they're pulling those meals from.
Okay.
And really our focus is just giving you the information that you need to be able to make an educated decision as, which meal plan should I follow.
Okay, cool. All right. So what do you hope to get from the investors in this show today? What are you hoping for?
Well, so the investor process, it's lengthy, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of a game to where you have to almost cast that net wide. So really we're looking to just get some face time, have those initial meetings, and find someone that is a good fit for us.
Okay.
I think finding that lead investor that understands your product, understands your market, and finding someone that you jive with.
Right.
Because you're going to be together for probably a long time.
It's literally getting married.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It really is. I mean, So like you got to find someone that believes in you as a person, and they also believe in the company as well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the investors they want to make money, but they're going to invest in someone that they get along with and someone they like.
Right.
So I'm all about the beer test, right? If we sit down and have a conversation, I want to have a beer with you.
Right.
Then all right, now maybe let's talk about some money.
Right.
But
exactly.
if not, it's just not. To me, I don't think it's worth it long term.
Right.
To just take a check, right? You want a partnership Right. This is something that you guys can grow together,
Right.
and you're bringing on someone that's smarter than you, right? Because I've got holes that I need help with, and so we need someone to fill those holes and help us, take the company to where we want it to be.
So, like, let's talk through the Genesis process. How did you? What's your thought process of you talk to people here that are maybe wanting to start something, how did you take that leap of faith?
Oh God, I just jumped in head first, and I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Right. But it was like, I've got this idea, we're just gonna
go do it.
We're just gonna do it, and then you just start, trying to figure out what are the moving pieces, and you have 1,000 conversations, and it starts almost for us. It started as an organic aspect where we're like, we don't really know what's going to happen, so you just start having conversations, and then something sticks and something holds, and then you start forming the product around that.
Okay.
But then it gets to the point to where you've got to be solely focused on what you're doing.
Right.
But everyone's a little bit different. You're going to have people that come in and completely analyze the market and have all this work they put in before they even start. For us, we kind of did it the other way. It was like, we have this goal, we have this vision, we're going to get there. Now we just got to figure out how we're gonna navigate that.
I actually think that's pretty smart. And so just to give you some advice, I've started 3 companies. I think that's really, really smart. What you're saying is, because what you need to do is get something out there, and then you need to start talking to either potential customers or real customers and get feedback. Have you had to pivot in any way, or your initial assumption? Oh, that's not right, but this is really cool.
Yeah, we've been lucky in that our overall vision has stayed true, but there have been things along the way, like initially, like I said, I'm an educator, I want to educate you how to do this, but we found people, they don't care. They're like, just tell me what to eat.
Exactly.
So then we're like, all right, here's your number, you don't want that, let's come back and add a meal to that.
Right.
We are starting to shift away from the B2C model and move into B2B, but all the while still developing it to where, you as an individual or someone else doing their first 5K run, their first Ironman can use it. But we are starting to pivot away and shift more to that B2B aspect.
And the B2B would be like a team or like a college or something.
Yeah, so we're in talks with collegiate athletics, some NBA and NHL, because big data, that's where it's at, right? In sports, it's huge. And so no one is really looking at that nutrition aspect.
Right.
So we're saying we can come in, take your existing data, everything else that you're already doing, and then we just overlay the nutrition piece to it.
Okay. Well, good luck in the show today. I hope you get selected for that lightning round. I really believe that you have a really cool product.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Cool idea. So I'm hoping that one of the investors here will see that as well. All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
sir.
man.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
We'll be right back with Demo Day.